Hey, this is WhyBeAre with BeamNG.drive, and today we're going to be taking a look at alpha version 0.7, and the full version number is alpha version 0.7.0.0.3036. And when you hit play, you'll notice there's a new button called Campaigns. We're going to be taking a look at that a little bit later on. First, I want to go to Free Roam and show you a new feature in the Map Selector. So right here, you normally click on the map and it'll load up the map in the predetermined location. Now you click on the map and you have multiple choices of where you can spawn up. And it is like that on all the bigger stock maps, so East Coast USA, Industrial Site, Jungle Rock Island, Small Island USA, and Utah USA all have different locations that you could spawn up on. So let's say you want to go to the port on Jungle Rock Island. All you do is you select port, and then you hit spawn. And just like that, we're at the port. Now there are a lot of changes I can't show you, like bug fixes and improvements to the physics. So for example, if you crash two cars together, you're less likely to have stability issues now than before. If you're using the couplers, you're less likely to have stability issues now than before. Again, it's not something I can really show you. Those are things where it's just you got to go and read the changelog. Some things I can show you though are the changes to the recovery system. So let's say you're driving your truck around all happy and then you forgot how to steer and you accidentally fall off a cliff. Then you want to get your truck back up, so you use the recovery system and it works the same, but the vehicle is now translucent as you recover it, and then once you recover it, it goes back to being regular. And then there was a change to the way the respawning system works. So before, if you wanted to get back to spawn, you could always use F7 unless you disconnected the camera from the vehicle by hitting Shift-C and then moving it around like this. Now if you hit F7, you'll go wherever the camera last was, which in this situation is in a tree. If you want to get back to where you spawned, previously the only way to do that would be to drive over there or teleport over there using the camera movements. Now there's a home system. So the way this works is wherever we started is your home. If you hit home, you spawn right there. And then you can change your home to wherever you want. It's a totally different binding than anything else. So if you wanted to easily be able to respond to a specific location no matter what you do, you just say, okay, this is it. You hit Control Home. And then now, whenever you hit home, you'll be in that position. So it just gives you another way to keep your vehicle in the location you want or to place the vehicle in the location you want. And the more ways to do that, the better, I think, because sometimes you'll end up with issues where you're like, oh, I spawned my truck in a tree, and now the only way to get it out of the tree is to move the camera off of the vehicle and teleport it. But if I do that, then I lose my previous reset point. Now, it's safe with the home system. Boom. Perfect use of the home button. We were stuck, and now we're not. Next thing I want to talk about is the change to sound when you're in slow motion. Basically, if you're in slow motion, sound slows down too. So I'll just let you listen to that for a little bit. Since the vehicle was stuck, we could go ahead and respawn it using the home button. And then I want to talk to you guys about handbrakes. Previously in the game, there were two different handbrake buttons. One of them was a toggle, which means you would click the button and the handbrake would be active until you click the button again. The other one would only activate the handbrake when you held it down. Now, both of those controls have been merged into a single button. And the way it works is actually pretty clever. So I guess you could call it a smart handbrake, because everything nowadays has to be smart and connected to the internet. Basically though, the way it works is as long as you're above 10 miles per hour, no matter what you do, the handbrake will automatically disable the second you let go of it. When you're under 10 miles per hour though, that's where things get interesting. So right here, we're driving along the beach a little bit over 10 miles per hour, we hit the handbrake, let go, it automatically disables because you saw we were over 10 miles per hour. But what if we're under 10 miles per hour? We hit the handbrake, let go, and then it holds it. And then to get it to go off the handbrake, we could just hit the gas pedal and it automatically turns it off. And then right here again, we tap it, and then it holds it, and then we could tap it again to put it in neutral, and then we could just roll forward ever so slightly on this very, very slight incline into the water. Don't actually want to touch the water, just wanted to demonstrate the fact that it's really easy to put it in neutral if you needed to. And then again, right here, just a little bit more like a testing, so we're going just about 10 miles per hour, hitting the handbrake, and then hitting the gas pedal. So you see, even if you're trying to do some maneuver at really low speeds with the handbrake, it doesn't really mess with you as long as you're getting back on the gas immediately, which you probably need to do because no matter what, hitting the handbrake at that low of a speed will pretty much completely stop your vehicle unless you're doing something immediately afterwards, like getting on the power. So overall, I'm really impressed with the way this was implemented. I don't feel like I'm missing either of the buttons, and I have the ability of both of them in a single button. What's not to like about that? So for example, we could slide into this, handbrake automatically turns off, worked great, no issues at all. While we're on the topic of input, there were a lot of changes to the input system in this update, and most of them are really minor things that you probably won't notice unless you do them side by side. But when you do it side by side, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's a nice improvement. At least that was my general thoughts as I messed with that, and I don't want to go this way again. I already went this way. Instead, let's go the other way. So there were also some improvements to the AI, and these are kind of generalized, like they're better at finding routes and determining what speed to use. One of them that's a little less general is the AI can actually drive no matter what transmission they have. Like it used to be if they had the wrong transmission type, they would just sit there in neutral going vroom, 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 vroom. It's like, no, you need to shift. Now they're like, oh, I need to shift. And they'll actually be able to drive on their own no matter what kind of transmission they have, which is a pretty nice convenience because every now and then I would have AI that's immobilized and I'd be like, why are you not moving? And it would be something dumb like they have the wrong transmission type. Since this map really sucks for crash testing, let's go ahead and just swap this out real quickly for Utah, USA. And you can see we spawned in a different location than you're used to seeing because I used the new feature that allows us to do that. And this next thing I want to talk about is something that's just really nice for me. It used to be you would crash your car like this, it would say radiator damage, and then that text would hold for a predetermined amount of time no matter what. Now if you reset the vehicle, the text disappears immediately. And that is huge for me. Why? Because if I was editing a video and then I had a crash like this, you would expect the radiator text to be on the screen a specific amount of time. If I reset the vehicle and the text immediately disappeared, it'd be really obvious where the edit point was unless I had the text hold for that specific amount of time, which would be an absolute pain to try to duplicate. A lot of the time I would just give up on it because I'd be like, okay, I gotta damage my left wheel axle and my radiator in a single crash and then reset exactly the same amount of time I did before, and oh my goodness, was it a pain. Now, it's like, oh, radiator damaged, hit reset. You don't know if that was a reset after 5 minutes and I had to do 5 different takes or if it was immediate. That is huge. Like, that's gonna cut down on my editing so much. It's like, WhyBeAre, why'd you care about something like that? You know what? Why care about any little detail? You find those little details and you make sure you nail them as often as you can. That's the way I look at it. Can this thing really drive? Yes, it sort of can. That is amazing. I thought for sure the drive shaft would have been broken, but apparently not. Unfortunately, it sucks at driving. There were a lot of other minor UI improvements that I'm not going to be going over. If you want a full list of those, do check out the changelog. The next thing I want to take a look at, though, is a new map called the ETK Driver Experience Center. So the map starts you right here, and if you just drive forward, you might think there's basically nothing here, because right ahead of us, we have a ring we could drive on, and then just a big flat area inside of that ring. And actually, this is used for the campaign mode. Now, one of them, it's a driving school, and they'll set up various kind of racetracks inside of this ring, and then you drive in that area. But right now, nothing's set up, so it's kind of boring. But there are other roads you can go and drive on. You just got to find them, and they're not in this direction, so we can go and just crash this car and reset us back to where we were. So how about we go up into here with a little bit of slow-mo. It feels so much better when you use slow-mo and then the sound changes just like the visuals. Makes it 100 times better, I swear. So to get to the rest of the map, instead of going straight, you go to the right. And at first, you might just be thinking, I'm going to a dead end. But I'm not. It actually is a road right here, which opens up to more roads. So right here, we could go left, right, or straight. Left and right are both dead ends. I'm going to show you what one dead end looks like just so you can see about how far you can drive before you reach it. I think the one on the right's a little bit closer than this one, but not by much. Right now, you can just barely make out the barrier. We're going to be slamming into it about 85 miles per hour. We'll throw 16 times slow-mo on this one so you can kind of watch the crash. There we go. And you got all that fancy sound in slow motion, but I'm talking over it, making it where you could barely even hear it, ruining the experience, all that kind of stuff. Anyways, this time we're going to go straight to find the interesting roads. I mean, that's the only thing I can really think of calling them at the moment, the interesting roads, because that road, it's just the road. The roads we're going to be heading to, they're very interesting because they have some unique properties that I'll be going over once we get there. And this whole map is solar powered. If you saw, there was a ton of solar panels off to our left. I mean, our right. I said left because I'm thinking I want to go left first. So right here, this is the welcome on ticket for services fruit and experiment. What it means is it's like the water experiment course or something like that if you would make it English. I really have no idea. I mean, that word has more letters than any English word I could think of off the top of my head. That thing was crazy. So what it is, though, is you just have a bunch of areas where the road is wet. And when I say wet, I mean really wet. This thing is slick. Like if I hit my parking brake right there, you see we just keep sliding and sliding and sliding. And then eventually we hit the dry. And it's just kind of fun to play around it. This one is just kind of like, you could put the kick plate in front of this. And if you don't know what the kick plate is, I understand that. It's been in the game for a long time, but I almost never use it because it's hard to find a practical use for it. Right now, I actually have a practical use for it. So we're going to go and spawn it up. And basically what it does is if you drive over it, it kicks the back end of your car out so you'll start to slide. So we're just going to spawn it up and then teleport it in front of the water right here. And then we can go over to the truck and we're going to drive it straight over this without any steering starting now. And just watch the rear end right here. Boom, you saw the rear end kicked out, so I steer a little bit to recover it. And that's what the kick plate does. As I said, it's been in the game for a while, but if you really don't recognize it, that's understandable because it's actually been completely redesigned from the old version and the functionality has been improved. So it works with more speeds and looks a lot nicer. Before, it looked just like this weird thing and you probably had no idea what it did because I've actually never explained it before. So anybody who purely watches my videos and doesn't actually own the game, you probably had no idea this thing even existed. Now, it does only work in one direction, so you can't go in both directions. Like if we go like that, it's perfectly straight. But that's what it's used for, basically. It's just a little bit of a kick out to make it where the driver has to do a little bit of steering to straighten out the vehicle. It's not made to like initiate a drift or anything like that. It's to teach people when the back end of the vehicle starts to kick out, what do you do to make sure you don't accidentally spin out and die? And then for the more extremes, you put in front of the water like that. And if you're going fast enough, you can be dumb and cause your vehicle to spin out completely. Then again, I'm not the best driver, so you know what? You can blame me on that if you wanted to and not the kick plate. I don't know. Right here, we just kind of have a puddle of water, which isn't as slippery as the one on the side over there. Because you'll notice there's actually kind of like two different types of water. There's the super soaked area right here where that's really slippery. And then you have this area, which is kind of slippery, but not as slippery as the super soaked area. Or maybe it's just a different type of pavement below the water. Not exactly sure what it's supposed to be, but there's a difference in how slippery it is. Same over here where we have it on the corner. And that should be fun to play around with. So we'll just go and bring the truck over to here and try that out. So we're going to try to hug the inside of the corner, which is going to basically be impossible because we'll just slide as we do this. But we're going to go in really slow, try to really just dive into it. Get a little bit on the dirt, but no, you see, you just slide right out because it's so slippery. Even in the less slippery area, we slid right out of that. Then you go in the other direction as well. This one's a little bit different because instead of having dry, dry, dry corner, you have wet, wet, wet corner. So you kind of have to like initiate corner angle right here and then try to make it through. That was awful. At least I didn't crash. Although it might be interesting if you're making like a challenging racing track. Like not one that would be used in racing, but just, you know, for like maybe Gymkhana or something like that. You have it where the straightaways are wet, but the corners aren't. So you have to kind of control your car in the straightaway, line yourself up for the corner, and then execute. That might be interesting. So right here is just a little bit of a test area. You could go on the road or you could go straight across. This is, again, this whole area actually is used in the campaign mode, which will have a separate video uploaded right after this one. I promise, it really will be. I know there was a huge delay on this one. I apologize for that. I've just been so busy recently. I haven't had a chance to do anything but work. But that's basically this area. There are a few more roads without anything too interesting on them, like actually where the truck is flying. I haven't done that one. So yeah, if you read that language, you could, you know, say exactly what this is. But it's just some roads you could drive on. A little bit of an elevation change to it. The other area is over here. And this one, again, is used in the campaign mode. So right here, we'll get a new truck. And the only thing I'm going to drive on is the wet area. So this is kind of like a skid pad test with water in the middle section. So you could just slide along the whole way. You know, if I had something with more power, I might have actually been able to stay on the water the whole time. That'd be interesting to be able to try to do that. You know, you just stay in the slick area. I don't know if you'd have enough traction to truly do that. And maybe you just have to go really slow. And I think you could. Like right there, I tapped out a little bit to keep myself in, but if you're going a little bit slower, I bet that would have worked. And you just got some roads over here that crisscross all over the place. We could just drive on those and crash on the poles, whatever. And that's basically all there is to this map in terms of things I'm going to show off. There's another one of the straight tests right here, just like the one over there. Don't think there's a difference between the two when you drive on them, so that's why I'm not showing off both of them. If we wanted to, we could put ourselves on the solar panels. I mean, just doing stupid stuff. Wondering, is that something you collide into? The answer is yes, you can collide into that. And the reason you would ask that is because of these little pillars right here. I mean, you drive right through those. What about the fence? That one you can collide into. Spoilers. See? So it's actually a fully featured map, but the main focus is actually the use in the campaign. And as I fly around this map, you'll notice one thing different about it compared to most. This one actually has areas that you're not supposed to drive in, that are just there for background details. Hey, what's that over there? I don't know what that is. Oh, it's a little castle! Like, that just stood out to me and I had to figure out what it was. It's a little castle. Anyways, let's go ahead and swap out the map for a more normal map like industrial site. And then we're going to go to, well, it really doesn't matter to me. We'll go to whichever one. And now all we got left to cover are the vehicle-specific changes. So one change that affects every vehicle is the drive shafts are now animated. So right here, if you look closely, you'll be able to see the drive shaft rotate as we accelerate, and then the rotation will stop when we stop, just like a real drive shaft. Another change that affects almost every vehicle is that you can now color the roll cages. So to show you this, I'm going to go and just grab a vehicle with a roll cage. Then you hit Control W to go open the vehicle customization menu, go to color, and the second color choice will color the roll cage. So we can go and make this blue that kind of matches up with the blue paint job on that. And that looks actually really, really nice. And you'll also notice there are presets available on the color selector right here, which I don't believe was present in the old version, but I also didn't see it in the changelog. I might have just overlooked it, but I'm pretty sure that's a new feature as well. Just, I didn't see it on the changelog. Another change is in the vehicle selector itself. Now, it's organized a little bit differently. We have vehicles. Then we have things you could attach to vehicles. Then you have props, and the cannon is still kind of just mixed in with props. There's no differentiation between a prop you could use and then props that just sit there. But it is a little bit easier to find things now, having all the trailers all grouped together. And, well, the flail is technically a trailer, so it's grouped with those as well. And there are two more changes I could think of that affect all the vehicles. One, fuel tank realism has been improved on all of them. And two, the ones that do have radiator hoses, the radiator hoses now can break in a collision. So as for the vehicle-specific ones, we have a couple of new vehicles, well, new trailers. One of them is the flatbed trailer, and then the other one is the tanker trailer. I'll get you guys a look at it right here, but I plan to do a video featuring this at a later date as well as the other trailer. So there's just a quick look at it and a little bit more detail, and then we'll just grab any of the flatbed trailers to spawn up. How about we go with the most loaded flatbed trailer? You can see it right there. And then we could go ahead and go through all the changes to every single vehicle. So for the H series, we have the off-road version as before, but there are a couple of changes to that. First off, let's go and spawn it up so you can see the change, because you can't really see it in the thumbnail. So first, the suspension has been improved a little bit, and secondly, we have these fender flares right there for off-roading. At least that's what they are designed for according to the game developers. Although you can use that on like a race version, I think it would look pretty cool as well. Next, we're going to go to the D series. So there's a new version of the D series called the D15 Border Patrol. And I've heard from a pretty reliable source that this is a presidential candidate's favorite part of the update. And it does have a few unique features compared to the other versions of the D series. So it has the light bar on top. And then we also have an extra set of lights right there in the front that turn on with the high beam. So you could really just light up whatever's in front of you. The police lights are a little hard to see at some angles because it's at daytime. But when it's nighttime, it's a lot easier to see it. But you could basically consider this a D15 V8 four-wheel drive with a cab on the back and a fancy skin and those two additions. So then we could go ahead and go to the Roamer, which these changes are also present on the D series, but I figure you already saw a D series. And this one's kind of really hard to show off except for just pulling out the parts menu saying, look, this exists. So if you go to the rear suspension, you now have super heavy-duty rear shock. Before you just had heavy-duty, now super heavy-duty. And then you also have shocks and springs. This is for both on both of them that are made for off-roading. So instead of having to mess around with the normal shocks and springs, you can just pull out the ones that are already made for off-roading, which makes it a little bit easier if you want to make a custom off-roader that's not actually based on an off-roader. Like if you wanted to make the sport version an off-roader, that would be the easiest way to do it. So now we're going to go to the Bolide. And for the Bolide, we have a new version. It's the 350. Before, we just had the 350 GT. And the 350 is just the 350 GT, but it has a softer suspension and some different wheels on it. And if you ask me, the 350 GT does have the better wheels. Next up, we're going to move over to the Corvette. And I know I'm going all over the place right here, It's just the way I have my list of changes written out. I organized it by how interested I was in something and not the order the vehicles are actually in, like I usually do. Trying it a little differently, so that way I figured the most interesting things come first and then the most boring things come last. So anyways, we have a new wing that's available on the Corvette. It's right there already installed actually. And I just noticed it doesn't show that it's installed on the thumbnail, does it? Let me check this out real quickly. Yeah, it doesn't look like the wing is installed right there, but it's definitely installed right here when I spawned up the vehicle. And the roll cage color actually saves between vehicle to vehicle. That I did not notice until right now. There's also a new skin for this, but I noticed something weird. Sometimes the skin doesn't show up. It's the Selector skin, and if you go to the dev blog, you'll be able to see what it looks like, but for some reason it's not under the paint design. It's strange. Like I could pick the rally one totally fine. There! Now it showed up. Huh! That was kind of weird. So, you saw that, right? I'm not going crazy, but we can make the car white because that's the color it's made for. And that's kind of what it looks like. I gotta zoom out actually, and I can't zoom out because of the buttons I'm clicking are being grabbed by the paint menu, I think. So there's the Selector skin. Next we're gonna move on to the Miramar. And the Miramar, you could do a fun thing with the race version. Like this race version doesn't look modern enough, you know, to make it look very, very, very modern. You slap a big wing on the rear, which is exactly what you can do because you have some spoiler options. We got 3 of them right here that weren't available before, I believe. Maybe you could have the GT-RX before, but I know the GTC and the GTT are new. So there's one of them. That's what it looks like. A little bit more close up on it. There you go. And then there's the GT. And then the GT-RX. Which, like I said, might be new, might be old. Also, there were some typos on the skin that I never noticed. Those have been fixed, and then crash reliability hasn't been improved as well. Next, we're going to go to the Bishu Pessima. And this one also has some new wings. This one, I know it had the wing you're seeing on it right now on it before. But there are 2 new options, and they're the same ones you saw on the Miramar. But I'm going to go and throw them on this car just so you can see what they look like on this one. Because the GT-RX looks absolutely ridiculous. These ones look a little bit more reasonable for like a tuned version of the car, but not the hill climb version. Like the hill climb one just towers above everything when you put it on it, and it looks crazy. Next up, we're going to go to the Pigeon, which has a new skin available for it. And the skin is only used on the fast versions. At least that's the way I look at it, because this skin is so fast, it looks like it's on fire. Well, actually, it is on fire. Also, with the update, it now is a lot easier to make a skin for a Pigeon if you're one of the skin creators out there. So expect a lot more skins for the Pigeon probably pretty soon, I would think. Next, we're going to go to the Moonhawk. One of the changes that's a little bit hard to show is the drag version. The rear suspension and everything around there has basically been improved to be more strong. So like the rear axle would sometimes break out, and I'm not exactly sure if it was because of the suspension completely or just the axle itself. You would do things like this. But now you could do that without having it break apart like it used to. And now the frame can fully be separated from the body. The easiest way to demonstrate that is with complete destruction. So we're just going to grab anywhere with the vehicle, not right there. I was trying to grab the frame or something, not the body panel. So we'll just grab the body panel, rip it off. Here's what I was trying to grab. And we just fling it about a little bit, try to separate it off. There we go. So there's the frame over there just sitting on the ground. There's the blob of body panel sitting over here. And again, that blue roll cage looking kind of funky. Absolutely obliterated that. And I hear a fire starting somewhere. No idea where that is. Oh, there it is over there. Moving on to the next vehicle, which is the ETK 800 series. There's a new skin for it, which isn't present in any of the ones that you can choose. So we'll spawn up one with a skin already, and then we're going to swap out the skin for the new one. So the new one is the driving experience one. See what that looks like. And this one is used in the campaign, and that's basically the only change for this vehicle. So there's also some changes to the ETK I series. It improved the way it crashes, and that's basically it. And then the large cannon and the old cannon have both been improved. So the large cannon is now less likely to get a vehicle stuck when it's shooting it, and it works in slow motion, and it retracts automatically. The old cannon also now works in slow motion, and it tells you when you've already shot the cannon, so you're not just sitting there like, why won't it shoot? Because the cannonball's already gone. And that covers all of the major changes for this version. If you want a full list of changes, go check out the changelog. And then in a few hours after you see this video, you should be seeing the video for the campaign mode, so you can go and check that one out. So until next time, this has been WhyBeAre. I'll see ya. Also, by the way, campaign mode's actually going to get a couple of videos. And the scenarios are going to get a couple of videos because I forgot to mention those. Alright, that's all for real now.